did not act on the information. So
Act on the information. They didn't even search the house. You know, I feel as though this was one of those situations that there was a lot of law enforcement there that should have handled this with care. And frankly, they didn't, you know, even though it was their buddy. This is the guy that they were hanging out with all night that they love. That's
for University of Idaho students, you know, their families are raising money through GoFundMe so they can just be at the trial.
The victims' families, right?
The victims' families.
Kohlberger is, of course, being defended by Ann Taylor, public defender. So it's not costing the Kohlberger family any money, but
you never know. Honestly, it's a way for people to
Make it
support
easier.
what they believe in, right? And I think that's everybody's right.
Make it easier.
But yeah, to your point, you know, she has raised money, no question. But, you know, I imagine she's getting a book deal.
this is True Crime Tonight.
You don't want to go to McDonald's on
I'm
Blanco?
Maddie Moving, and I'm here with Courtney
Make it
Armstrong
bigger.
and Stephanie Lydecker.
Is
And
it
we're going to get
closed
into
still?
the Karen Reed and John